We live so much of our lives online, right? But have you ever stopped to think about what's standing between all your private data and just a constant barrage of threats? Today, we're going to dive into the world of defensive cybersecurity, the invisible shield that's protecting everything from your bank account to the actual systems that power our entire world. So let's get right to it. How do we protect ourselves on this massive digital battlefield? When threats are literally everywhere, what is it that keeps our most critical systems from just crumbling? Well, the answer isn't just one single thing. It's all about building a really powerful, multi-layered defense. You know, the easiest way to get your head around all of this is to think of it like we're defending a medieval fortress. Seriously, this analogy is going to be our guide. A fortress isn't just about high walls. It needs guards, it needs internal defenses, and it needs a command center to see the whole picture. So let's start with those outer walls. All right, so first things first, we have to build our fortress's outer perimeter. This is our absolute first line of defense, and it's designed to stop attackers before they can even get close. Okay, so every good fortress needs a strong gate and some seriously high walls, right? Well, in the digital world, that's our firewall. It really does act like a gatekeeper, checking the credentials of all the traffic trying to get in or out of the network. It's programmed with this really strict set of rules, basically turning away any known threats or suspicious characters right there at the gate. But come on, a single wall is never going to be enough for a real fortress. That's why cybersecurity relies so heavily on a strategy called defense in depth. And the core idea? It's actually pretty simple. No single defense is ever foolproof. So what do? You create layers. If an attacker somehow manages to get over that first wall, bam, they're met with another one, and then another one waiting right behind that. And these layers, they basically break down into three core types. First, you've got the physical layer, and this is exactly what it sounds like, literally locking the door to your server room. Then there's the technical layer, which is where you find tools like the firewalls we just talked about. And finally, you have the administrative layer. That's the human element, stuff like security policies and training that teaches everyone how to act safely. Walls are a great start, for sure, but they're just static. A real fortress needs watchful guards on patrol, people who are actively looking for trouble. In cybersecurity, this is the job of our real-time threat detection systems. So our digital guards have two very distinct roles, as you can see here. The first one is the Scout. This is known as an intrusion detection system, or an IDS. Its job is to spot suspicious activity and just sound the alarm. The second one, though, is the Frontline Soldier. That's the intrusion prevention system, or IPS. It doesn't just ring a bell, it actively steps in and blocks the attack right on the spot. So where do these guards actually stand watch? Well, they can be placed in two main locations. A host-based system is kind of like having a personal bodyguard for a single computer or server. A network-based system, on the other hand, is like a guard in a central watchtower, watching all the traffic flowing across the entire network. So how in the world do these guards know what to look for? Well, they mostly use two methods. The first is called signature-based detection, which is pretty much like having a big book of wanted posters for known criminals. The second is behavioral detection, which is a lot more about instinct. It learns what normal activity on the network looks like, and it flags anything that just seems off or unusual or out of place. Okay, but let's be realistic. Even the best walls and the most watchful guards can be beaten. So what happens if an attacker actually gets past them? This is exactly why a truly secure fortress has to be defended from the inside too. The key strategy here is something called network segmentation. Instead of having one big open-plan castle, you create separate, locked-off wings. That way, if an intruder manages to breach one section, they're trapped. They can't just roam freely and get to the crown jewels. This kind of containment is absolutely critical for minimizing damage. And this whole idea of internal security, it leads us to a really radical modern philosophy that's summed up by this one powerful idea. You have to assume that every single attempt to access the network is a potential threat. This is the guiding principle behind what's called zero trust. So zero trust totally flips the old trust but verify model on its head. It became so essential because with things like remote work and cloud services, that old fortress perimeter just kind of dissolved. Now, with no clear inside or outside, this model trusts no one by default. Every user, every device has to prove their identity every single time they try to access anything. It's like having a security guard demand your ID at every single door inside the building, no exceptions. All right, so you've got your walls, your guards, your internal locked doors. But all of these defenses need to be coordinated from somewhere, right? You need a central command center, a nerve center that sees the entire battlefield all at once. So welcome to the Security Operations Center, or as everyone calls it, the SOC. This is that high-tech room where security analysts are watching all the alerts from the firewalls, the IDS systems, and every other tool, coordinating the entire defense of the fortress. Inside this command center, analysts are using a whole suite of advanced tools. Think of a SIM as the master dashboard that pulls in alerts from every single corner of the fortress. A SOAR platform? That's like an automated defense system that can respond to common attacks instantly. And EDR and XDR? They're like advanced surveillance, protecting everything from a single soldier's laptop all the way up to the entire kingdom's supply lines in the cloud. But, the real power here is how all these tools work together. They combine to give the human analysts a single, unified view of the entire battlefield. And that lets them spot really subtle patterns, hunt down hidden threats, and make the fast, smart decisions they need to make to keep the whole fortress secure. So, when you step back and look at everything, you realize that building a digital fortress, well, it isn't a one-time thing. It's a constant process. The attackers out there are always inventing new siege weapons, so the fortress's defenses have to be constantly reinforced and adapted. It is a never-ending, really dynamic challenge. And that really just leaves us with one final thought. From the strength of your passwords to the security of the networks you join, every little choice we make is another brick in our own digital fortress. So it's worth asking yourself, how strong are your walls? Thanks for joining this explainer.